The habit of fear thinking fuels difficult emotions, and difficult emotions fuel more fear thinking. It's a circular. But I always have been struck by Jill Bolte Taylor, who many of you have heard of, again, neuropsychologist. She describes that it takes 1.5 minutes for an emotion to come and to go. 1.5 minutes. Unless, of course, you're having thoughts that keep on fueling the emotion, which is, of course, what we do, that we keep on generating stress thoughts or fear thoughts, or we keep talking about things that keep us anxious, and they keep the mood going. Case in point, after a tiring day, a commuter settled into his seat and closed his eyes. As the train rolled out of the station, a young woman sitting next to him pulled out her cell phone and started talking in a loud voice. "Hi, sweetheart, it's Sue. I'm on the train." "Yes, I know. It's the 6:30 and not the 4:30, but I had a long meeting." "No, honey, not with that Kevin from the accounting office. It was with the boss." Her voice is getting more and more anxious and defensive. "No, sweetheart, you're the only one in my life." "Yes, I'm sure, cross my heart." And 15 minutes later, okay, she's still talking loudly, she's anxious, she's defensive. The man sitting next to her finally had enough. He leaned over and said into the phone, "Sue, hang up the phone and come back to bed." So it wasn't a great illustration, but I liked it. So the more we have the habit of the thoughts and the talking that has to do with what we're afraid's around the corner, what's going to go wrong, what's wrong with me, the more that generates the emotions that embody those feelings in our body and leads to the very behaviors that bring about the responses from the world that reinforce our beliefs. Do you all know what I mean by that? That when we're insecure and we have insecure thoughts and we act out of them, we create responses that then deepen our sense of insecurity. So we're caught in this stimulus reaction kind of a cycle. And this what I'm calling this subcortical looping. And it leads to the actions that come out of our fears. Well, either we speed up, get tense, and really get our bodies sick. We also try to control others. We try to prove ourselves a lot. We try to defend and present a lot. And there's a lot of aggression, whether it's just our minds having judgmental thoughts, or in large ways bullying, attacking, hurting. So this is what I mean by flipping the lid. It means that we're no longer living from what the integrated brain, which really in an energetic way means we're no longer inhabiting our awareness and our heart. We're not living from a more evolved, awakened sense of our being. We're reacting out of the more primitive parts of our brain. They've taken over, they've hijacked. And we need to find our way home. And we can see that in our individual life, how we act out in ways, we'll press the send button on an insensitive email or say hurtful things or let loose our anger. And we see how in the larger society, the subcortical looping that leads to the repeating cycles of war and oppression. We see what happens when the primitive brain hijacks. We're coming from a very small fear place. I read in just recently in the Post that the first 5 months of this year, police killed more than 2 people a day, disproportionately African Americans. And we can see the fear and the fear meeting each other. We can see living with this kind of flipped wig, disconnected from the evolving brain and the danger that it creates. Bottom line, when we're living out stimulus-react looping, this unintegrated brain, we're believing something that's not true. We're living in a very confined reality of a separate and limited self. a reality that has us locked into a very small sense of who we are.